Listen to part of a lecture in a class on the history of science. The professor is talking about the invention of zero.
I'm going to start today with some numbers. 1970 and 104. How do these relate to me?
104 is your office number. I guess 1970 is your date of birth.
Right. And what do they have in common?
There's zero in both of them?
And these days we couldn't survive without zero. Either zero the empty placeholder or zero the number, because zero expresses two different concepts. Let's consider the year 1970. This shows zero, the empty placeholder, since the date 197 is pretty different from 1970. However, in many ancient cultures with sophisticated mathematical systems, like the Babylonians in the Middle East, zero, the empty placeholder, didn't exist for a long time. And I mean a really long time, around 1,000 years. No one seemed too concerned about its absence. Context indicated which number was being discussed. Zero as an empty placeholder came into existence for the Babylonians around 700 BC. Little hooks were used to denote the empty place. However, zero still didn't occur at the end of a number. So, 197 would exist, but not 1970. Again, context signaled which number was intended. The other thing to note about the Babylonians was that they used a place value number system. Theirs was base 60, whereas ours is base 10, while the ancient Greeks did not.
Then how did the Greeks make all those mathematical advances and build such amazing architecture?
They used geometry, the description of lines, rather than math. They left math to the merchants, who didn't appear to care for precise notation. But there's one exception in Greece, the astronomers, who used the symbol for zero, the placeholder, that we recognize today, the big O. The origins of this are hazy, and it's not known whether it was considered as anything more than a punctuation mark. For example, did it exist as an abstract idea? Certainly, zero as a number hadn't reached ancient Greece.
I don't get how that can be.
It does seem strange. I guess if you look at it from a practical perspective, it's easier. Let's say you're a goat farmer. Well, you're likely to know how many animals you own and use a number for that. If by some bad luck you lose all your goats, you probably describe that in words. We still do this in English. We say, I've got 3 children, but we don't say, I've got 0 children. We prefer, I don't have any children. Furthermore, getting back to that ancient Greek farmer, there's no point at which he has negative animals, that is, minus 23 goats. Where there's no concept of negative numbers, there's also no concept of zero the number.
So who invented zero the number?
There are 2 main contenders. Let's consider Indians first. Some historians of science believe the Indian conception of zero owed something to the Greek astronomers. Others make unsupportable claims that zero as an empty placeholder dates back 17,000 years. All we can say with certainty is that the first genuine written use, on a stone marker not too far from Delhi, is 876 AD. Zero, the number, however, is a different story. This time Indians do lead the way. In 628 AD, an Indian mathematician, Brahmagupta, tried to give rules for zero the number and negative numbers. He couldn't figure out how to subtract 0 from other numbers, or what happened when trying to divide 0. That came 500 years later. But basically, he had 0 as an idea pretty well under control.
I read that the Mayans in Central America used 0 as a number as well.
That's true. A little later than the Indians, around 665 AD, they had a base 20 numbering system that included a symbol for 0. Unfortunately, Mayan civilization only lasted until 900 AD, and it didn't influence many other cultures.
What about China? Didn't the Chinese understand 0 early on?
It seems not. Most likely, the spread of Indian ideas influenced them. In a Chinese mathematical treatise written in 1247 AD, the symbol for 0 appears for the first time. But Europeans didn't find out about zero until 1200 AD, and it wasn't widely used for another 400 years. Understanding zero is still an issue. I'm the only person I know who didn't celebrate the millennium on January 1st, 2000. When the ancient Romans devised the calendar we still use, there was no year zero, and no one's fixed it since. That's why I was partying on January 1st, 2001.
Now answer questions 12 to 17. Circle the letter of the answer.